Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. I'm recording this on July 4th, but I'm going to publish it on Sunday, July 5th. So I hope you had a good Independence Day. And it turns out that this July 5th, there's something very rare happening in the church. And I didn't know how rare it was until I read this church news article that we're going to cover in this video. Before we get to that, I learned today, and I guess this doesn't come as a surprise, that Independence, Missouri is named after the Declaration of Independence, which I find fascinating. In a recent video, I covered an unusual talk given by Elder Rasband recently, in which he brought up a couple points of doctrine that aren't brought up very often. The fact that the Garden of Eden was here in the heartland of America, and that the continents were divided in the days of Peleg in the Bible. They were divided so that America would be separate from the rest of the world, so that religious freedom could flourish, and so that this could be a base for the gospel to be preached throughout the world. And so it's very fitting, I think, that this location that's going to someday become the New Jerusalem is currently known as Independence, after the Declaration of Independence. And then just to the north, we have Liberty, Missouri. I don't think that's by coincidence. Here's the historic Truman Courthouse, all decked out for Independence Day, a beautiful building. And then on July 2nd, we had the annual fireworks display put on by the City of Independence on the grounds of the Independence Visitor Center. It's lots of fun. It feels like the whole city comes out. There's food and there's games. And it's just a good time. Here's the Spirit of Independence concert band. They played patriotic music. People go up to the temple lot. There's a lot of places to sit and watch the fireworks. They close off the streets around here. So some people are on the temple lot. Some people are in the street. Some people are on the land of the Independence Visitor Center. But it's a really good time. But it's interesting because my understanding is that it's normally held on the 5th of July. This year, it was on the 2nd. I'm not exactly sure why. I heard one person say because of the weather, but I didn't see anything in the forecast that would have prevented it from being on the 5th. Earlier in the year, I asked the missionaries, I wanted to confirm when it was going to be because we were having our friends coming into town. And they originally said it was going to be on the 26th of June because of the FIFA World Cup, because some of the games were held in Kansas City. Then it was changed to the 2nd, and that's when it actually happened. But it didn't take place on the 5th. And I don't know if it's because the 5th is a Sunday and maybe the church is like, could we please not do it on a Sunday? That may be the reason, but it may also have to do with this. Okay, church news. Unified fast for religious liberty on Sunday, July 5th. I would highly encourage you to participate in this fast. Like I said earlier, I think that this is really important because it turns out that this is rare. How is it rare? Well, at the end of the article, we're going to cover this more fully at the end of the video. It points out other times where the church has called for either like a worldwide fast, a church-wide fast, or a fast within the United States. In one case, it was the United States and Canada. I realized that I needed to put this on a spreadsheet. So I created a new spreadsheet. This is called Timeline Fasts. And I did the research to see if I could find out if there were any other fasts other than what was mentioned in the article. I asked Grok. I checked the scripture citation index to see if any other fasts were mentioned in general conference. I searched for worldwide fast. I searched for church-wide fast. So it really does seem that these are the only ones that were like large-scale fasts, at least within recent times. Maybe in the early church, they had some, but that's when the church was like really small. So from what I know right now, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the one that's happening on the 5th for you guys today, it's only the 6th one. So it's not common. And this one seems to be somewhat related to these two that we did in 2020. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's go back to the article. So you see, it's not something that we do every day. When it was first announced, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. It makes sense. It's going to be the 250th anniversary of the United States. And so, and that's true. But let me just show you why this seems to be so important beyond just that. Okay, this coming Sunday, July 5th, is the opportunity for all members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the United States to participate in a unified fast. So if you're outside the United States, you might consider still doing it. I don't think it would hurt. But this is a specific invitation to members of the United States. But a unified fast. The article points out, or it points to the March 12th letter that was sent to local leaders in the church. I want to read from that really quick. Dear brothers and sisters, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence throughout 2026. A new video will be available on churchofjesuschrist.org, in which President D. Todd Christofferson and Elder Quentin L. Cook will offer instruction about the significance of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and related events that enabled the restoration of the church. All wards and branches in the United States are invited to use this video during a fifth Sunday meeting on May 31st to discuss the importance of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and how these documents support religious freedom and our God-given agency. Additionally, on Sunday, July 5th, 2026, all are invited to participate in a unified fast to express gratitude for religious liberty and, okay, so it's not just, a commemoration of the United States and its founding. It's not just expressing gratitude for religious liberty. It says, and to pray that it be strengthened throughout the world. Please convey this invitation to members of your stakes, wards, and branches beforehand so they can prayerfully consider the focus of their fast. And then sincerely, the First Presidency. Okay, let's continue. With the First Presidency's invitation, Kurt Fertig, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Kurt Fertig, the American Institutions Program Chair at Ensign College, immediately thought of Isaiah 58, verse 6, which reads, "Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, in that ye break every yoke?" Fertig told the Church News podcast, a lot of people around the world do not enjoy religious freedom. In fact, it can be difficult or even dangerous for them to freely express their religious feelings and worship. Quote, "I think the purpose of this fast is to ask the Lord to work miracles around the world, to soften hearts, to open avenues for changes within governments where those are needed, so that people can start to feel the same ability to really practice the religion freely, whatever religion that is, and remove those bands, loose those bands," he said. Okay, before we continue, I find that very interesting. Again, I'm looking at this in the context of how rare it is to do these large-scale fasts. If you know of any other fasts that are large-scale that are not on my spreadsheet, let me know. But as far as I can tell, this is only the sixth one. And here is where we start to think about the second coming, because we know that the big thing that's happening right now, we have that article from the April 2020 Liahona in Ensign that contained President Nelson's big second coming article. And in that, he essentially said that the biggest thing that's happening right now in regards to preparing for the second coming is the gathering of scattered Israel. So we think about all the temples that are being announced and constructed and dedicated. We think about all the advancements in family history and such, but this is huge. Reaching out across the world and preparing the people and the world for the second coming. So it feels like the church is preparing for the next phase, perhaps, because of this fast. Let's look at a couple things really quick. Let's see. Let's go to, sorry. I want to read this. This is President Oaks delivered this address on December 14th, 2021 at Sapienza University in Rome, Italy. The speech was presented in the framework of the course Global Humanities, Critical Theories, and Transnational Cultures. So this is when he was first counselor in the first presidency under President Nelson. Now he's president of the church, but this is what he said. Notwithstanding the advantages and benefits I have been discussing, we live at a time when both organized religion and freedom of religion or belief are facing unparalleled challenges. Okay, this is 2021. Now it's 2026, and we're doing a special fast for religious freedom, not just for the United States, but for the world. Particularly in highly developed countries, both are declining in the significance attached to them by citizens and their governments. Religion is under siege by the combined forces of political correctness, secularism, relativism, and authoritarianism. So those are the four big things that we're trying to push against or push back with this fast. Political correctness, secularism, relativism, and authoritarianism that seek to replace religion with other priorities. Globally, restrictions on religious freedom have reached a new high. On this subject, I love the teaching of the late Chief Rabbi, Lord Jonathan Sacks of England, quoted in Elder Cook's recent talk at the Religious Liberty Summit. In his 2011 address to Roman Catholic leaders at the Pontifical Gregorian University, titled, "Has Europe Lost Its Soul?" Rabbi Sacks described, quote unquote, an aggressive scientific atheism that is tone deaf to the music of faith, end quote. In 2019, the Pew Research Center surveyed restrictions on religious freedom in 198 countries. 29% of these countries had high or very high levels of overall restrictions. Because these 57 countries included several of the world's most populous, this means that well over 60% of the world's population lives in countries with such restrictions. Governments in more than 80% of the countries harassed religious groups in some way in 2019. More significant in the long run may be shifts in the attitudes of persons toward religion. A 2021 Pew Research Center survey in 17 countries asked 19,000 adults, what makes life meaningful? In countries outside the United States, religion did not appear as one of the top 10 sources of meaning in life. In the US, only 15% of the respondents mentioned religion or God as a source of meaning in their lives. Okay, so it's clear that the church is concerned about this, and it should be. There is a problem seemingly all across the world, but especially in certain countries. And if we go to, let's look at a couple things. I have this spreadsheet called countries. This may not be 100% accurate, but it's close enough. So under the black line are countries that have at one time had missionaries within their borders. Some of them may not now, but I have to like try and redo this and try and do the research a little bit better. I found this list. I can't even remember when I first made this, but it seemed accurate enough. But essentially, these are the countries that have had the chance to have missionaries within their borders. And then these countries above the black line are countries that really have not. Um, and they're closed off to the church right now. You have Afghanistan, Algeria, and then you have all of them. There's Cuba, China. Even though with some of these we do have meeting houses, even temples, even in the case of China. So, but China is a really big country. I think it's one of these countries being mentioned by President Oakes, countries that have a large population. I have had the feeling that China's time is coming, and maybe that's part of what this fast has to do with. China is becoming more modern. It's growing in power and economically. And maybe this is actually going to lead to change within the country. Maybe we're going to see a type of revolution in China. I don't know. But uh, I don't know. I feel like this fast. You think back in time to the Soviet Union and how back in those days, even though I was really young, I didn't really think about this. But back in those days, I'm sure it seemed impossible that we would ever have missionaries in Ukraine, in Russia, that we would have temples there, stakes and districts and wards and branches. But that has happened. So if that happened with the Soviet Union, why can't it happen with China or even all these countries in the Middle East and Africa? Another way to visualize this is if we go to the church's meeting house locator website and you just look at the red dots, you can see where we have meeting houses and where we don't. I don't see any in Algeria or Tunisia, Libya, Sudan. There's one in South Sudan right there. Um, you look at the Middle East, you have some in the United Arab Emirates, Qatar. I'm wondering if, like in Qatar, if those are just like for military personnel. I don't know. We do have some in Israel, but we can't do any proselyting in Israel. There's definitely none in Iran. And then you look at China. We know that there's over 1 billion people that live in China. So this is a untapped, a mostly untapped country. Even though we have a couple temples there. Well, we have the Hong Kong temple that's already constructed, and then there's a temple that's been announced for Shanghai. Um, so we want to go to these places, and over time, the church has been able to access more and more countries, but there's still more work to do. Now, I don't think it has to happen before the second coming, but I think it would help. On this spreadsheet, I point out that I got these numbers from some official report. The total number of people who immigrated to the United States between 2011 and 2020 from these countries. And so people from all nationalities, I think, have had the chance to receive the gospel, whether it's been through the internet or whether it's been through immigration to countries where there are missionaries. So I don't think it has to happen before the second coming. I think that maybe China's time won't really be until the millennium. But the fact of the matter is, we're doing a special fast today, and it's for countries just like this. Not just China, but other countries. If you can have faith and believe in miracles, impossible things can become possible. You look at the Middle East and you're like, oh, there's just absolutely no way. No, there is a way. I know there's a way. The Lord knows how to do it. So right now we're just being asked to do our part in fast, in unison, and see if we can take care of these problems. I wanted to point out a couple things. Uh-oh, book has been returned due to inactivity. Dang it. Let's borrow that again. While I wait for that to load, let's go to this talk. This is by Elder David B. Haight of the Quorum of the 12, missionary work, our responsibility. This is a quote that I already have on my spreadsheet, quotes A through Z. He said, over 15 years ago, President Kimball urged that, quote, every family, every night, and every morning pray to the Lord to open the doors of other nations so that their people too may have the gospel of Jesus Christ. That was back in the 80s when the Soviet Union was still around. And then he says, the last few years, we've seen the fruition of the prophet's vision. Doors have been opened, walls of nations have collapsed. We must be prepared to march in legally and appropriately as the Lord opens those doors. You guys, this fast that's happening today, July 5th, for you, I don't think it's any small thing. Again, it's rare. It's only the sixth one that I'm aware of, like a large scale fast. And it seems to be almost like part of this, like a second phase. Like here you had President Kimball and the Soviet Union collapsed. And now we have a presence in those countries. And now I think we're getting ready to go into the next phase, into some or maybe all these countries. Okay, has this loaded yet? Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, this is the right. Okay, this is the right page. Let me zoom in here. So we're looking at page 586. This is the teachings of Spencer W. Kimball, edited by Edward L. Kimball. Let's go to the one-page view. And yeah, there it is. Okay, that's what I want to read right here. This was at like an area conference in Rochester, I think Rochester, New York. It says it in the back of the book. Anyway, it's been put in this book. We've already asked you, and we now repeat that request, that every family, every night, and every morning in family prayer and in secret prayers too, pray to the Lord to open the doors of other nations so that their people too may have the gospel of Jesus Christ. Until we get the permission of the political authorities, we are unable to go into these many countries and proselyte there. And so we are praying that the Lord will touch the hearts of the prime ministers and queens, the emperors, the presidents, the rulers of all the nations in the world, so that they will make it possible, excuse me, for our young missionaries to go into those fields. So I have created a new row 429, for missionary work, opening doors. I already had this one from Elder David B. Haight, but now I have this new one, like the more complete quote from President Spencer W. Kimball. Okay, let's go back to this. So, again, this is Kurt Fertig, the American Institutions Program Chair at Ensign College. I think the purpose of this fast is to ask the Lord to work miracles around the world, to soften hearts, to open avenues for changes within governments where those are needed, so that people can start to feel the same ability to really practice the religion freely, whatever religion that is, and remove those bans, loose those bans, he said. Joseph Carey, Communications Department Chair at Ensign College, said the two aspects of the upcoming fast are important. One is to express gratitude for religious liberty because it is a reminder this right comes from God. Quote, it makes sense that he wants all of his children to enjoy that freedom of religious liberty. And when we express gratitude for that, I think it strengthens our commitment to it. And also our recognition that it comes from Heavenly Father, and in terms of how do we increase it. So number one, we appreciate it. Number two, how do we increase it? How do we expand it to other countries? And It's also a great responsibility to fast about it with many other individuals. There's quote unquote tremendous strength in that, he said. Well, we're about to see, aren't we? And yeah, of course, there's tremendous strength. I already know that, but I can't wait to see what happens. Now, so again, please join the fast. Oh, there was a firework that just went off. Please join the fast. I wanted to go through these other um, large scale fasts that's mentioned at the end of this article that I've put on my new spreadsheet. So, number one, in 1985, President Spencer W. Kimball invited church members to fast for famine victims in Ethiopia. The fast raised $6 million. Latter-day Saints participated in a second fast in November 1985 that raised another $5 million for hunger relief. So that's interesting. There were two fasts that year for Ethiopia. And then 3 decades later, President Gordon B. Hinckley called on church members across the globe in January 2005 to fast for victims of a tsunami that struck Southeast Asia on December 26, 2004, the day after Christmas. I don't know, but it feels like that's not coincidence. Triggered by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake, the disaster killed more than 220,000 people in a dozen nations, including Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Thailand, and India. The fast fueled emergency response and long-term assistance in the disaster zone. So look, this is interesting. We've talked about this earthquake and tsunami, I don't know how many times on this channel. I have a spreadsheet for earthquakes, and you got this chart over here that tracks death toll by year. And this first really big spike right here comes from that earthquake and tsunami. It's interesting that it happened in 2004, like I've said many times, because President Oaks, at that point in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, he gave what is so far his only big second coming talk in the April 2004 General Conference. He is now president of the church. And one thing that's really unique about this talk that I haven't seen in other General Conference talks is he gives a numbered list of signs of the times to look for. And he specifically talks about tsunamis, among other things, in this talk. So I don't think it's coincidence that that's what happened later that year. I don't have my wildfire spreadsheet pulled up, but wildfires, starting in 2004, you started to have all these record-breaking wildfires. And then that was, I already forgot. I think 2004 was also the year that saw the largest number of tornadoes in the United States. So all these things having to do with natural disasters coinciding with 2004 and seemingly with President Oaks' second coming talk. Probably not a coincidence. So the fact that President Hinckley called for a fast, I think it was to help the victims of the tsunami, but it also highlights, I think, the significance of that event and how we should really pay attention to it. That was a really big sign of the times, just in terms of destruction and fatalities. We really should not ignore that. And again, the fact that we've only had 6 of these large scale fasts that I know of, it really highlights that. Okay, and then let's go over the last 2. In 2020, then church president Russell M. Nelson invited church members and others to participate in a worldwide fast on Sunday, March 29th, to plead with the Lord for quote unquote physical and spiritual healing in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. During April 2020 General Conference, he called for a second worldwide fast on Good Friday, April 10th. Again, at that time, I didn't realize just how rare this was. So you can think about it like this. The two fasts with President Kimball were for the same thing. So you could call that just like one fast or one incident. So you have that. Okay, so look at it like this. So it's more like one between those first two, one, and then two with Gordon B. Hinckley, and then three with President Nelson. Okay, Ethiopia, Southeast Asia, COVID-19 pandemic. So if you look at it that way, the fast that's happening today, July 5th, for you guys, it's only the fourth one in that sense. Like when you're thinking about what's the thing that's being fasted for, it's only the fourth. So that makes it even more rare. So this really is a special thing that's happening. Please make sure to participate in this. I'm going to, my family's going to. Please make sure that you do too, because I think this is going to lead to something big. Let's see. I always have to double check. I think that's all that I want to cover. Oh yeah, I was going to point this out when it comes to the tsunami. I just want to point out Elder Joseph B. Worthland in the October 2005 General Conference. He used what happened with the tsunami as like a foreshadowing of the second coming. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but he points out that the people knew that the tsunami was coming, just like we know that the second coming is coming. And then the way that he words this, I think, is very intentional. Think about this in terms of the second coming. When the elders of the village saw the dreaded signs, they shouted to everyone to run to high ground. And that's definitely what's been happening, especially ever since President Nelson became president of the church. The elders talking about the dreaded signs and shouting to everybody to run to high ground. And then President Hinckley, in that same general conference, he read some verses from Matthew 24, which is the big second coming chapter of that book. He points out signs of the times that have been happening ever since Pompeii was destroyed and up until now. And in this list, he included the tsunami, and then he referenced Doctrine and Covenants 88. And he said, how interesting are descriptions of the tsunami and the recent hurricanes in terms of the language of this revelation, which says, the voice of the waves of the sea heaving themselves beyond their bounds. That's one of those moments where we're given a very generous hint, just a very on the nose hint. Like, if you think that that's something that's still going to happen in the future, no, I'm letting you know it's happening right now. If you read the scriptures and you think everything is going to happen in the future, you're missing it. You're looking beyond the mark. These signs are happening now. So anyway, we're talking about this because this was one of those very few times that there was a large scale fast called. So, anyway, welcome to Independence. I hope you guys come and visit. This is a great place. I love Independence. I love the public square, and I love Missouri in general, but especially these places of the church sites. All right, well, that's going to be for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.